What's up, guys? Damnation here, and I got with me tonight Ross Crow.
Good evening, everyone.
We got RB.
Howdy, everyone.
He was playing hooky from work today, so he thought he'd jump on here and join us. And we got Tuesday Rebel.
What's good, everybody?
So hopefully everybody had a good sector consolidation and didn't lose anything. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, though. Let me get right into the screen sharing and share some slides and talk some Battle Pirates related items. So first thing we're going to talk about is Just Mike apparently has been canned from kicks. You know, the guy who was actually interacting with the community and trying to get real community feedback from more than just, a couple players has been let go. So let's talk about that for a little bit. What do you guys think? I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's terrible, terrible, terrible.
I never myself developed a personal relationship or meeting with him, but I saw his interaction in the community. It was very obvious, and it was much needed and appreciated at the time. And I hope that's my concern, that I really like that, and I want that to continue. So I didn't know about his job performance as far as, because I just didn't have that interaction with him, but I did see the community interaction, and I thought that was outstanding. So as far as that aspect, I'm sad to see that happen.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange thing because he sort of just popped up almost out of nowhere to Battle Pirates and then didn't last very long. So it seems to be a theme that's been happening quite a bit lately, but we have no influence on that. So I'm the same as Ross. I didn't have any sort of contact with him or anything like that. So I was pleased to see the direction that it's going. So as long as we stay, on that sort of track, it'll be good. Haven't heard much from Wrong Thinker lately, but I guess they're working hard. So,
Travis?
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. He was very, very interactive there at the end. He was just getting into his stride, I think, with the community and build connections with the community. And the one thing I really liked about him, he was open for discussion. He'd put a discussion up on, Discord for various topics. But if you gave an idea, he was always open to it, or would say why he liked it or didn't like it. So he was a very kind of down to earth guy when it came to communication, via that platform. And I really hope the next guy can attempt to pick up what he was doing for us as the community. It kind of felt like he was strengthening the community itself some. And so it was quite a blow to find that out, especially after we found out it was Friday, and then we had all this insane damage for the raid. So it's kind of like two blows at once. It's kind of hard.
I know from my perspective, it seemed like Mike was the most pro player GM that we've had from the company in a very long time. He was the most interactive person with the community that I've seen since Swag. And that's something people I like for years and years have always been like, well, I remember when Swag would get on here and talk with us all the freaking time on the forums about stuff or in game about stuff. And, Mike was actually stepping up and filling that role because he would be on Discord talking to people about stuff all the freaking time. So I just think it's a really bad blow. I think it's gonna affect players a lot more than what most people realize. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how the new guy does, but he's gonna, in my personal opinion anyway, he's gonna have some pretty big shoes to fill as far as community interactions. because Mike did a hell of a job for that. So I'm really sorry to see him go.
For sure. And it
Yeah,
seemed
but
like
this. Sorry, go ahead.
it just seemed like he had a good vision that would be beneficial for the player and the company itself. Kind of, he seemed like he was a middle ground kind of guy, and a lot of businessmen, they want all or nothing. A lot of players want everything for free. He understood the connection between the two, and I don't know. I can't speak for his work performance. I don't know how he was at work or with the other employees. Um, so I can't speak on that, but just from what I've seen, it seemed like he was trying to bridge a gap, and now the bridge has actually been burnt. So
Yeah, just I don't know. From my perspective of what I got, it just seemed like the executives didn't like the direction he was trying to go. Is kind of what I took from the whole thing. But I don't, I'm not an insider, so I have no inside information. It's just, what I kind of pieced together through things I saw and heard and witnessed was kind of my. But this post at the end of the day was like, "The king is dead. All hail the king." So
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, this guy's gone, but look, hey, we got another guy to step into his shoes. So they have this our new guy is called. Get this, guys, you're gonna love this. His name is Golden Doodle. So I'm waiting for the first time in live interactions where somebody accidentally typos and says, "Hi, Golden Duty." So I'm just waiting for that to happen. But apparently he's been a member of their War Commander team for a long, long time, and now he's coming over here to Battle Pirates. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. I don't play War Commander anymore, so I don't know how his tenure was over there. But if the War Commander guys are anything like the Battle Pirates guys, it doesn't matter what you do; it's not good. So I don't know. I can't really say.
Well,
Yeah, I think the best we can do is just be hopeful for the future and hope that this philosophy actually takes hold and they keep it going.
Yeah. But then
Sorry, Ross, you were going to say?
no, that was about it.
All right.
Then Gold Doodle did his little intro thing, saying he's going to be immersing himself in Battle Pirates over the course of the next week to start to learn the ins and outs. Well, let me tell you, buddy, it's going to take you a lot more time than a week to like even grasp the basic concepts of this game. But his goal is to empower the Battle Pirates team in the same way that just Mike did, as he maintains active communication with all of us. So he said soon we'll see his head poking into the Discord channels and forum threads. So, yeah, my response to him in this thread was, welcome to the team. My first suggestion to you is go out and buy some heavy duty body armor, because the standard Kicks issue body armor doesn't seem to be quite thick enough for most people. And we are a very passionate community, and we get pretty pissed off pretty quickly lots of times. So you're going to need some really thick body armor to deal with us.
Yeah, and that's the truth. In right off the bat, there's not going to be there's always going to be someone that you're not going to be thrilled with in this community, or not going to be thrilled with you, regardless of your wonderful decisions, even if they really are moving the game and going to be good decisions. There's going to be community that are just going to troll, and so I don't think that I actually wasn't even prepared for all of it before I started this game. It truly is a community that's pretty overwhelming at times. So I hope that you have thick skin. I can see that he's a dog person, so I'm happy about that. So I can't knock any person before I've seen their work. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Golden Doodle has to offer. I think that bringing someone over from another game with Kixeye is beneficial, as far as they already know the probably, and what I'm just assuming is that they would know the finance side, what's required out of their game company, because it probably is, similar guidelines for War Commander, and so they would just need to now learn the game itself. The in-house other part of it, they already are aware with. But I'm concerned. It does take a long time is the problem to learn this game, to actually see that things are working or are not working correctly takes even longer. And so I'm just looking forward to some in-game interaction, and hopefully that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit bad for him because he's probably starting out at a detriment already through no fault of his own, because a lot of people liked Mike. And, it's like, I guess the best way to maybe compare this is like, say, for example, if you're a Doctor Who fan, when you first start watching Doctor Who, the first Doctor that you meet is your favorite Doctor. And like when they kill him off and move on to the next Doctor, doesn't matter how good that next Doctor is, you ain't going to like him. So it seems to me the Golden Doodle has kind of fallen in the same unfortunate position here. That like so many people like just like it doesn't matter how well Golden Doodle does. Some people just are not going to be able to make that transition and be like, oh well, he's a good guy, So I feel a little bit bad.
Well, I don't know. You got to give him a fair chance. I mean, you can't just form opinions just because you like the last dude. I mean,
well, yeah, and logically, yes, that is true. But there are people out there who will not like him just because they feel somehow it's his fault that just Mike is gone. That's going to happen.
But it's not. So I guess all I'm saying is we need to give him a fair chance, and let's just see where we go. And I am kind of curious whether they're going to charge him 100 coin to change his name, but that's another thing.
I don't know. And I'm speculating that he may be either English or Australian due to the way he spelled honor there, because he spelled it with a U, and no real red-blooded American would do that. So he's obviously not from the States.
Well, it would make sense that he's from the Australian team, I guess.
That's just my little tinfoil theory there. So
yeah.
So Forsaken Mission, we're in the new Forsaken Mission cycle. Like, I don't know why they now give us like a starting and end time for each cycle, but whatever. I mean, there it is. So I wonder why they started doing that. That's just kind of weird. But anyway,
well, go on. Sorry.
We're just gonna go over new prizes. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. I was just going to say, there's people out there who won't read it anyway, so I think it's good that they have it.
Yeah. All right, so first we got Deep Dive Warheads.
All right, now I can go over this special here. It's a brand new one, and this one's just going to be for the Occam's Razor Tail. It will not fit on any other hull. It's Forsaken Tech. It's Tier 7, so this would be the newest, latest, and greatest. It is a total weight 8%. It does have a rank of 15, so you can find this in your retro lab and make sure it's retroed up. So that's an important factor in this special. This one here, it really has a great splash and explosive damage, and the splash is at 105% with an explosive damage percent of 98. It does come with sonar range, but that doesn't really matter with this tech, in my opinion, of 60. But the splash and the explosive damage are just great. So in my opinion, this is just a I've already refitted it, and I added it to so he's got comparison here. So I've already done this in game, by the way, and checked it out, and it's just that little bit I needed. It goes for the explosive damage from 361 to 398% on just a blank shell. Now that was truly enough for me to start one-shotting and two-shotting certain hulls that before I just wasn't. I was having to, they were almost dead, and I was having to stick around. I just needed this little bit, and this has given it to me. I've noticed it in game, in battle already, and I'm impressed.
And then next up, we had the modified warhead stockpile.
So I guess this is me.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. If there's nothing going on, it's your turn.
Okay, no worries. All right. So this one is I guess the newest now that we don't have stacking fire supports and all that sort of thing. So it's Forsaken Tech, Tier 7, 1500 power consumed. I don't think we should be having any problems with power there. So it's only got a range of 30, and it's giving you penetrative damage of plus 15%, and then you get your bonus effect if you have it on your outpost or a warehouse of 20% projectile speed. So
yeah, so it's kind of like instead of generic fire support, it's like specialized fire support. Only instead of giving you reload, it's giving you projectile speed, but it's only works for your missile turrets and stuff. So
yeah, so obviously my prediction is we're going to get another one of these every week, and they'll all affect the different turrets.
yeah, so instead of having a generic one that can stack multiple times, you're just gonna have like specific ones that can only stack once.
Yeah, because you've only got your duplicate or a cap of one. So
yeah. It's there again. My personal opinion is it's just another way to make our sandbox even smaller. Because you're taking generics and now reducing them to specifics.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they all play out, because I think there's going to be a lot more strategy employed going forward for each one of these. So I get your point about being generic, but I think it could make some interesting combinations.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be okay. So I take this, put it on this one warehouse, and then like pile all 4 of my penetrative turrets around this one warehouse, and then I do the same over here for the ballistic one, and then I do the same over here for the defensive one.
I'm pretty sure that's how we're going to end up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Anybody else got any thoughts on this?
No, I agree. It's going to create, in my opinion, then we're going to have the same what we have now, basically like the same 5 designs in the game. I really like the general options so we can really open up and maybe see some different type of designs. I know in the past that's been looked at and thought that changing port or add portal or just different things would change it, but it really hasn't. And pretty much everyone has just a similar design in the game, and I'd like to work away from that.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I do think this is designed for the post refactor, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays into things previous to the refactor.
Yes.
Because I know missiles are one of the things that can occasionally break deflection right now already. Depending on how you have them piled up and whatnot, and depending on what kind of armor the people hitting you with have on. So if they're coming close already and then you start stacking this on, this actually has potential to really break deflection in current game before the refactor. So it could be interesting to see how this comes into play for a little bit until the refactor happens.
Yeah, this will for sure. This will do it. This will put you over most common attacking fleets right now for their missile deflection. So it's a really nice special to have and use right now. I don't know how long that effectiveness will last.
It'll simplify base hitting too for some players. Some players, they know that their fleet will make it, but they're really not understanding why. So if they make one of these for each weapon type, then when you see a group of turrets, you're pretty much going to know it could be this or, something else. But strong chances are you'll be able to understand like each section of the base by its damage type and cluster. So you'll know how to attack it a little better.
That is true. Next up, we had the Zithanite Reinforcement D5CO. And of course, this is just the regular standard armor for your turrets and your outposts. And this one is for the corrosive as opposed to the all the other different damage types that we've had previously. This is one's been, I think, waited for a while because, you know, witch doctors are still pretty big at the moment. So piling this up on some of your turrets and on your outposts definitely will help you stand a little bit longer against witch doctors. Of course, currently it has 30% corrosive defense. We all know that that will eventually probably get changed over to deflection when the refactor happens. But this is what it is for now.
And so for now, it's going to be a really big plus. You know, that one, if it would have been released quite a while back, it would have changed the game.
Yeah, I agree. And then up next, we have the Thundershell casing.
All right, these are Forsaken Tech for the Brennus Bat Ray flagship. It's tier 7, and it gives you 8% weapon weight. You get a buff on your flagship, which the depth charge critical damage is 175%, and the critical charge chance 35%, and your splash is a little better with 45%. So it'll definitely help out. I'm glad that they kind of kept this one to the flagship only, so we didn't have to concentrate on, you know, several ships. But here you can see the differences. You know, your splash is going to go from 25 up to 45, and then you're gaining 50% on your depth charge critical damage, and on your critical chance you get an extra 10%. So I'm kind of wondering now, should I pull my anti-torpedo and the Gale off of my flagship and just go straight DPS with that ship and put them on another one?
I would kind of almost think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I would kind of almost think that's the case for both of the flags. It seems like they're catering these both to be your damage dealers, which makes sense because they are the ones that have the two big honking weapons on them in the first place. You know, the ones that do like 3 times as much damage as what the regular ones do. So it kind of makes sense to follow in that guideline with the specials. And yeah, I would probably just go all out DPS on the flags.
Yeah. And they kind of did throw us a bone here with the Hidden Depths campaign, because you can get your 3 skirmish tokens. So this is basically a free refit.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
Of course, as we all know, starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. kicks time, which would be noon my time, is VXP weekend. Not really a whole lot worth talking about on VXP weekend. It's the same that it is all the time. Go out, kill off your ships, get some VXP, or, you know, in some cases, use your fleets to kill off the VXP targets, and then you can get some Defender VXP tokens. So, and those are always good and always useful. I know I always try to keep a handy supply of them on stock.
I was just going to say with that too, sorry, that the same techniques that we used last time are probably going to be successful again.
Yeah, it'll be the exact same VXP targets, I'm sure, that we've had the last, like, what, 3 weeks probably? Or not, 3 months rather. Yeah, 3 weeks. Wow, that'd be amazing if we had 3 weeks. Yeah, so that's the same targets that we've had for the past 3 months. So yeah, pretty much anything that you've done before that worked, do it again.
Yep.
Double driver campaign.
All right. This campaign started the 6th, and it's going to end on the 13th, both at noon PDT or PST time. And it's going to be to pick up the Bat Ray and the tokens that go with that. And this one, you use your Mana Core fleet for. And the first prize pack, you pick up the Bat Ray itself. And then the second prize pack, you're going to pick up the GSU-7 Ripsaw, the Gatling gun. That's just the standard weapon that goes with the hull, and 2 7,500 VXP ranking tokens. The third prize pack, you're going to pick up the same ranking tokens times 3, and one day Bat Ray build token, and then you're going to pick up the Hydro Explosive Casings special. In the Mastery prize, you're going to pick up 3 of the ranking Bat Ray tokens, 2 of the 1-day bat ray build tokens, and then you're going to also get along with that the badge. And so it's a pretty wild looking badge, but if a lot of people collect badges, and so it is what it is. This one here, myself, I'm. It's just the damage is a little high for me, so it's really not worth the 2 days, but or 3 days. I'm sorry for me, but a lot of people it is.
Yeah, just be careful with your VXP tokens if you're doing this as well, because you'll lose them if you're full. Same with all of these ones.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's pretty much standard anymore with any TLC. Always check your token limits as you go.
Yeah.
Because they like to be like, oh, you can win 75,000 tokens, but you can only hold 2.
Right, in the one thing, right.
And we also got the Whiplash.
Yeah, Whiplash is basically the twin to the other campaign where you can get the Razor Tail, and you can get the Needler rockets, some VXP tokens, and also build tokens as well. In the Prize Pack 3, you'll get your Wave Driver warheads, and then if you go to Mastery, you'll get your some more VXP and build tokens and the badge. But there are a lot of players that are still using the hunters or the prototypes. So maybe if they can at least get through the first one or the second one, they'll be maybe a little better off in the next raid. Of course, it'd be nice to get all 3, but I think a player that low is not going to get to the 3rd prize pack.
Yeah, the damage is really high on these. I guess with like really careful planning, you might be able to do it, just before you go to bed or you go to work. But this weekend's jam packed with stuff, so I guess it's going to, you're going to have to make the decision on what's more important.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, but other than VXP weekend, really, what's it jam packed with?
A massive FM.
Oh well, that's true, I guess. My FM's mostly done already, so
yeah,
I'm not one of those guys. I'm one of those guys who starts right away. I'm not one of those guys who waits till last minute.
Yeah.
Hidden death campaigns.
So this one's for your Fangtooths, and I know I'm at my limit of these tokens, so this is another one to be careful of. So Prize Pack 1, this has been a really, really good fleet. So if you don't have it by now, you really want to start looking at it. So you get the actual sub itself, the Delirium Torpedo, the Advanced Torpedo Tubes, and then some tokens. Prize Pack 2 is more tokens, more VXP. Prize Pack 3, more tokens, more VXP. They're 30,000 ones too, so they can be quite good. And Prize Pack 4, the Phantom, which is, if you can get to this, you really do need the Phantom as well, like a lot of these flags to get it going. The important one is the 3-day skirmish token, so they're generic ones, so a lot of people will do these for just those tokens themselves. And then
I quite honestly, from my personal opinion, is those tokens are the only reason worth doing this campaign at all.
Yeah, because if you don't have it,
Fangtooths have no use in the game right now. You can't use them to hit the current raid targets.
No.
So they really the only thing they're actually really good for, in my opinion, in the current game right now is doing the level 200 elite salvages to get a sector threat, yellow or orange. That's to me, that's the only thing they're good for anymore.
Oh, and the other really important thing about this is that you do need the PBX payload to actually even start it off. So if you don't have that, sorry.
Yeah, Why do they still have that in there? That is just so stupid. Like, why do you have to have that to be a requirement to do that? That's just the most idiotic thing that never should have been there in the first place. And I can't believe this late state of the game that requirement is still in there.
Yeah, I guess they just haven't taken it out. It's just straight copy and paste.
Just things like this are some of the things that frustrate me sometimes.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but yeah, at the end of the day, do it for the skirmish tokens. That's really the only thing, in my personal opinion, is worth it in this campaign. But yeah, it's 3 days of generic skirmish build tokens that you can use to do your flagships for your current skirmish fleets. That's more than worth it. And Bat Rays can walk through this campaign from start to end on auto with hardly taking any damage whatsoever.
Yeah, I was going to add that too. That and even prototypes will do it as well. So.
Yeah, even the hunters, you can do it with hunters. I mean, now you're not going to go straight through from beginning to end and like with hardly any damage, but hunters can definitely do it as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been doing it myself. I mean, I don't need the haul or anything, but I started the prize pack 1 just to get my way worked to I don't know how many battles I'll have to get to go for the tokens, but I'm in.
And then I guess our last TLC we got this week is the Hunter Games campaign. We've done this like a billion times by now, and this is where you can get the Hunter and the PBX payload that you need to do the other one. So if you don't have that yet, you need to do this one first. But then you get build tokens, you get Wolf Tooth depth charges, Houndstooth depth charges, charged armors, and then you can get the Apex Hunter at the very end. And you can get a bunch of build tokens and BXB tokens through it as you go. And you get the return of the wonderful skirmish chest that we've always loved, that you get anywhere from 1 to 4 days worth of build tokens in that skirmish chest for the hunter.
So realistically, to help a player out, would you say to start? I mean, my thinking would be to do this thing up to prize pack 2. Get the PBX payload, move to the Fangtooth. Would that be what we're saying? Because
it depends. It depends on where you're at in the game. If you're working on Bat Rays and Razor Tails, then yes, and and if you don't have the PBX, then obviously you want to go to do this up to prize pack 2, and then switch campaigns and go up to the 3-day skirmish tokens. Now, if you don't have either Bat Rays or Razor Tails, and you also don't have hunters, then you want to stick with this one and go as far through this one as what you can.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say I was just thinking about the Fang thing. So they do the Scourge blockade really easily. So I don't know. To me, I'd use Fangs more than I'd use Hunters these days, but that's just me.
Well, I'd use Bat Rays or Razor Tails more than I'd use either one of them.
Of course, but
so yeah, if you're looking for or even prototypes more than I would use either one of them. Right. So if you're looking at trying to get moving forward, I don't think Fangs is the way to go for anything in the game right now. And my hunters actually do hit the daily campaign for the Uranium Act. They actually do it pretty well.
Yeah, but they don't do it damage free.
No, but not everybody's looking for damage free all the time. They just, sometimes, hey, I can do this daily and get my total warehouse is full and only have to deal with like 2 hours of damage, and I can do it right before I go to bed. Lots of people are happy with it that way.
Right. It does. It has its purpose. It's still because it can get a resource at any level. If it can get the bottom target on the map, then in my opinion, it's still worth getting for some players.
Yep.
On the Fangtooth, I kind of do agree with Mike, because I use my Fangtooth to open the sector orange, and then by hitting the 2,000 or 200 elite targets, salvage targets, and then they go right back in the dock.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
now. We should put our perspective in too, though, that we are people who do not like to drive chores whatsoever.
Right.
So if you're a person who doesn't mind driving chores, then Fangtooth, sure, they can get you through the daily. I would also say the map targets, but we know the map targets are going to be changing before too long, and we know the Fangtooth won't be able to do shit in the map targets once they change.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I would still go with Fangtooth. I wouldn't even bother except for those 3 days worth of skirmishville tokens. So I think that covers the TLCs. Bug fixes and tunings. Oh, this is a big one actually, because okay, they did a change where secondary weapons were doubled in the stat block. So this fix will make it appear as though certain damage stats were cut in half. This is a visual change only. That was a big thing on people's Inferno Dragon hulls they were looking at this week. They're like, "Why is all my shit cut in half?" And it's like, that's just visual. It's everything's fine. Everything's the same. It's just visual. Payout screen having 0 titanium awarded from the silo targets was fixed. Combat unable to target turrets and structure behind portals was fixed. Game crashes when fleet was launching was fixed, and then other general bug fixes and performance improvements.
Yeah, I know that there was the weekly mission was fixed when that update came through. The people were not allowed to hit the centers on certain targets, and certain other various issues have arose. But as far as I know, they've been going through the list and fixing the new issues.
Yeah, let's talk about the whole sector consolidation thing for a little while, because I didn't actually do a slide for it, but I knew we were going to talk about it. Did anybody on the panel have any kind of issues with the reconsolidation whatsoever? I know I did not have a single issue with it.
No, mine all went very, very smoothly, and it was very good to see.
I was totally shocked. I was expecting all kinds of horrible, horrible things to happen with this consolidation, and I was pretty freaking amazed.
Yeah. Yeah, they pulled off.
I'm thrilled with it. I mean, I really, I did not have a tinfoil hat on or predict doom, but I did not expect it to go as smoothly as it did. I'm happily pleased that the game performance, in my opinion, is on my end, is not affected from prior to the change. The clutter on the map is not overwhelming. The target sizes are visually appealing and workable, and they're built in by design ahead of time. Feature allowing players to relocate afterwards. Fixes all issues that I have with the whole thing. So I think the hats off, props, and I don't say that all the time. And this was a big move, and I myself and just again, the whole entire community will not feel the same, but I truly think this is great. I like activity in the game. That's part of what I enjoy, and this brings activity to the game.
There were, some issues that coincided with it. I don't know that they were necessarily based on the thing, but we were talking about the not being able to hit the center of the FM targets. I'm not sure if that somehow tied in with the sector consolidation or if it just happened to happen at the same time, but I mean, there were some small issues with it. I know one of the thing is, and this was more on players than it was on kicks, that people tried to, after the consolidation happened, tried to relocate to their old bookmarks, which kicks told you not to do. They made that very clear, but people tried to do it anyway and then got stuck in limbo. So, to me, anyway, that was more on players than that was on kicks. The only other thing I saw was some people's megas got stuck in limbo. That might have been the people who were hiding them off the map, maybe that happened to. But apparently, most of that has been fixed as well. So, with as monumentous undertaking as this was, and all the things that could potentially have gone horribly, horribly wrong, I think it went off smooth as silk, all things considered.
Sure.
Dooms, did you have any issues?
Nah, man, I slept through it, woke up, everything was fine. Sitting 3 sectors over, so it was it's nice to see that the sector chat was a little bit active again. And then, you know, usually it was just world chat for a while, but it's nice to see people talking and stuff. So, seen some old faces, actually, old players that I used to play with that I hadn't talked to in a while. So that was really cool.
There you go. Cool. So
Yeah, they must have done some pretty major hours for all of this, because it would have been a hell of a lot of work.
Huge kudos in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just, I actually spent the last day being like, wow, I can't believe like nothing more went wrong than what did.
And, you know, knowing, you know, about game design and stuff, that'd be a pretty huge undertaking, you know, to as many players that's played the game through the years. You know, they have to assess who's they're going to keep or whatever, who's inactive based on whatever terms they set. But all in all, that's a lot of bases and a lot of information, a lot of people, and for it all to pretty much come together. And I'm sure some people had some problems, and I'm sure some people are saying they had problems and didn't, but it all in all, it went great, and they did a great job.
I remember back when I used to play World of Warcraft, and they would do world migrations sometimes, or server migrations, to where you get a server that, you know, over time it would end up not so many people would be playing on it anymore, so they would move it and combine it with another server that had a lot of people, not so many people playing on it anymore. They actually would have bigger issues doing that than what Kicks seem to have doing this consolidation. So that to me, that's definitely pretty impressive.
It is.
So, Ross, you had an Onslaught guard build that you want to talk about, something you use in your base currently, I think.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I've been going over the sloths in the past and the attacking fleets, and I was kind of just trying to think of what I could help people out with. And currently in game, this is a guard ship that I do use in my base, and I was just going to go over it and hopefully I had to help some people with at least some ideas for guard for their base. And first of all, I like the Onslaught because it has a built-in explosive deflection so high that it really gives you something to work with well for those mortar and just explosive attacks. So I started with that, and then I added I like the Hex scattergun just for current before the refactor occurring. I like the Hex because, well, truly just because the different damage types, and it seems to do quite a bit of the over damage, and so I'm using that. And you'll notice that on that hull I fill it all. However, I use one polonium thrower. Now that polonium thrower is not for damage, and the reason I use that is because it throws the attacker off by their accuracy by 50%, and so it's really a beneficial weapon, and you'll actually see the effects immediately the first time you're attacked. And if you get hit by the same person and then add this on and try it again, it really causes quite a bit of miss. So that's you don't need that on every defending hull, but I do suggest you put that on one of the lead ships that hits the attacking fleet first. And it seems to work well in that way. Now, as far as specials, I do have an engine on this one in my base. It's in case you want to do the Mario Andretti thing, and I just have a speed system on there. Now where I want to get to is what the next special is, the Roaring Barrel system. This special is an important one for the Hex scattering gun, in my opinion. Other specialists do give you similar options. However, they do not give you the multi-shot of +3. So being that this special gives you the multi-shot of +3, that's the reason I choose this one. It also does come with a scattergun reload bonus of 60, and I believe a corrosive damage boost of +30. But the real reason I go for it is the multi-shot. Then after that, I do know that I have a turret defense special on there. However, it comes, I'm using Assault Battery MK Com. The reason I'm using that one there is because it adds an additional penetrative and the corrosive damage of 25%. And so both these damage types are covered. And so that's going to be the reason for that special is used. The next special is going to be the countermeasure loaders 4. There's going to be another option currently, I believe in with the new tech that's out also for counter reload, but this one here gives me a scattergun reload of 25%, so that's why I added that to the hull. The next special after that would be the explosive systems 4. The reason I use that one is just in general, it reduces my spread by 20%, and I like that effect primarily. The projectile is also increased, I believe, 43%, and splash is also a big plus at 62%. And when adding that special, so that's the reason I put that one on. Now after that, I do know that Cannon System 4 is not the correct special type for the weapons I used on the hull. However, I am added that on there for the increased splash of 35%. Many specials do not stack, giving you added splash. However, this Cannon Systems 4 for ballistic will stack with about anything in the game, so it's a really good special to add for splash. And in the end, I do use the EMP overload. I really like that. It triggers the freeze and the 12-second stun, and that's much needed in base defense, at least on one hull. Now, as far as the armor goes, I threw on 2 MC2s and 3 D6Us. Primarily, it just gets the defense up. This hull really will last and take a beating in the base. I have a lot of success with this hull.
Cool. I know I have a siren that's somewhat similar to this. There's a few differences, because it's a little bit of a different hull, but it's kind of similar to this, and it's very effective, and I really like it. I think I might even still currently have an onslaught that's similar to this in my base as well. RB or Dooms, do you have anything you want to put in on it?
First of all, I just want to say I really appreciate you sharing the build, because for me coming back, the hardest learning curve is the changes in PvP content, and all of my most of my defenders and a couple other Conqueror hulls are just blanks because I didn't know what to do with them, and I've just been so busy I didn't have time to research it or play with builds. But this is something I definitely could potentially use, so I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no problem. And like again, there are a couple specials that people can swap out here and there to get the same or nearly the same effect if they don't have all those specials. But that's just giving you the really good idea on what to use in game now. Now, this is before refactor. I do want to make that clear, because these specials are not really designed for max damage. They're designed more for reload and type.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was like I might change that if it were me building this. Like you have the assault battery on there, and it buffs the damage, but not really the reload. If it were me, I might swap that out with like a Siege Reloader 2 or something like that to give you even more reloader, because that extra damage boost probably is still not going to be able to overcome deflections.
Right.
So you're not really getting much out of that.
You are not. That's correct. That was kind of, in hopes. That was actually before I realized that I would never be able to break deflection.
Right. And I'm probably, when you originally built this too, was before we started having all the corrosive PvP armors as well.
And in fact, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I always appreciate these builds being shared, because, even if you don't have all the specials, as we said, you can at least start it helps you think about what it's being used for, and because you're explaining it step by step, it helps people's understanding of what works and what doesn't, and what you're wasting your time with. So yeah, and it's good to see the Bob skin.
Right. So next thing, RB. I took a couple of screenshots out of the video that you sent me. If you want to talk about this for a minute.
Yeah. So this is my little thing that's been happening. It's probably been a month, I guess, now. So it's in the 120 FM targets, which is pretty much the only ones I hit. So you'll see that the fleet's starting to move and follow me around. It's kind of amusing when it happens. It doesn't particularly change your damage or anything like that. It's just really strange because, you know, this happened in I think 1 out of 6 targets last night, and then sometimes it happens quite a bit more. It's just, it always makes me laugh when it happens because you just don't expect it. And like the first time it happened, I was just it was a serious what the hell is going on moment. You know, what have they changed? I don't remember seeing this.
I mean, yeah, because the fleets on these targets are not supposed to move, and as you can see here clearly, like this boat started out right here at the beginning, close to the beginning of the video, and then as the video went on, you can see that it started to, at this point, chase him out up around here and down this way as he sailed away. So yeah, that's
yeah. I made sure that I went as far away as possible so you could actually see them all chasing me, and you know, you can see the, what are those little ships called again? ECMs. Following different paths and stuff like that, and quite often the other. It's strange how it all works, and it's quite odd when it happens to you. So yeah.
Yeah, apparently programming boats to stay still is a lot harder than what we think it is.
Yeah, I have seen, when I've talked about it before, I have seen other people have the same problem. So it's a bit of an interesting one.
I mean, Travis, is it really that hard to program stuff to not move? I would think that would be pretty freaking easy.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I don't know. Maybe there's just something, you know, where they used a previous build that had an engine, or, well, I mean, there's built-in combat speed anyway, so I just don't know what would trigger it to make it, you know, to move. It's very odd.
Well, it's very odd because, like, you know, now granted, I don't always watch all my battles, and I do most of my battles on auto and stuff, but I've never, in any of the battles that I've watched and stuff, I've never seen the ships move. Yeah. But apparently it happens to him and some other people on a fairly somewhat regular basis.
Yeah. I've heard it myself and thought they smoked something. Right, whatever. I've hit a million of these things, but I hit a lot on auto, and like you said, so so I don't see. I guess I might think I was smoking something wrong if I saw this occur myself, because I have.
Well, no. If you see this happening and it's not, you're smoking something right, not something wrong.
Right? So, yeah, it's kind of humorous. I'm glad that it didn't wipe your fleet out or something like that.
No.
So as far as that, I'm happy. You know. Yeah. And so you just kind of have to chuckle at this one. And I'm happy that the effects were not detrimental.
Yeah. If anything, you probably get less damage because, you know, you have the chance to take on one ship at a time. They're not all triggering at you at the same time. You know, my only wish when it happened last night, I was like quickly, you know, just hitting every button I could to try to record it so I could actually capture it happening. But I think I'm going to speed up the video and add some Benny Hill music and have them chasing around all over the place. Just spend the whole battle, you know.
There you go.
Chasing around.
Now, since we're talking about the FM here, do we want to talk about how many points are required for this week's FM? And if we've seen a damage increase in the FM? Because I know I sure as hell did.
I did see a damage increase. I I went through, man, I was kind of excited. I went and refit my Inferno Dragons with the new Gale 4s
Mm.
because I had the tokens and I mean I didn't well I wasn't out any coins really on the issue. I might have speeded up an hour or two, I don't know, but in general it was just for what I had in storage. So I figured I'd try it out, and I went out and took more damage than I did in the weeks in the past. So I didn't really have a good representation. I was trying to just see. I was trying to actually do a comparison on how well it was, so I could tell the community in general on whether to use the Gale 4s over the Gale 3s, and that just didn't work because I'm taking more damage now. So
Well, here's where my tinfoil hat comes into play, because I'm wondering at this point. Okay, so knowing that a lot of people probably did the exact same thing you did, does that mean they weigh up the missile damage to not only compensate but overcompensate for people putting Gale Force on and be able to avoid more explosive damage? That's my tinfoil hat.
well, it definitely is missile damage, because I increased my explosive, and well, visually I'm doing okay as far as what's going on in the target. Explosive wise, missile wise, I'm not doing okay. Quite a bit's getting through, quite a bit of damage. So it's just not it made it not a possible comparison for me to explain the benefits of adding the new anti-mortar.
Yeah, I mean, the whole we're supposed to add upgrades to take less damage, but if you're going to bank around people having those upgrades and then just up the damage that other aspects of the target gives out, then like don't even bother giving us upgrades then at that point. Just leave everything the way it is. My opinion.
Yeah, well, given the Gale 4s weren't supposed to really, be such a major improvement from the Flying Dutchman thing, it's interesting because I've added some Gale 4s as well to my Greta, and I was hoping the same thing, that I would see, that I'd be able to compare the difference and whether it's worth it and all the rest of it, but it's hard to tell. So it's a little disappointing. And the points wise, well, it's interesting because we now have escalation specials instead of escalation weapons. And for someone who normally tries to get everything they can out of the FM, because we don't know what's going to be sprung on us next week, it's I think I'm going to forget about the missile thing and then just pick that up at some other time, because it's a hell of a lot of points.
Yeah, see, at this point, I've gotten everything, I think, except for I don't think I've picked up the base armor yet, and I might not have picked up the Brennis special yet either. And like the Brennis special will probably be the last thing I pick up, because I am building a Bat Ray fleet, but that's like my secondary as I get tokens kind of thing, and I'm not trying to make that my penultimate raid fleet. So if I don't get the special for that, that's not a big deal. But I mean, it's interesting. We've had upgrade. We've had a Brennis and Occam weapon only upgrade. We've had the regular generic upgrades for both hulls, and now we have a special upgrade for both hulls. I mean, it's getting pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. That's why I went ahead and hit start on my my shipyard, because just to force myself to not be able to refit just in case something comes out later. I don't have to do it again. I just want to let that thing go as long as possible, and then I'll get as much stuff as possible, and then when I have it all, then I can do it.
Yeah, I saw you were doing that, and I thought that was actually a really good plan. So I think I'm just going to refit the specials and probably do the same thing, because then I'll be set for the next raid, and if I do need to refit, I can do it then. So
yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't do it. I mean,
I know, right?
You got to be kidding. I mean, I'm just not going to.
Well, your perspective is a little bit different, I think, from theirs though, because you're like do a whole lot of PvP. So for you, it's like, okay, well, if I'm not using that shipyard to do PvE stuff, I sure as hell have a lot of PvP refitting I can be doing in it. Whereas RB doesn't do a whole lot of base hitting, and Travis is just getting back into the game really, so he's not in that hardcore PvP spot yet. So I think it all depends on where you're at in the game, whether that's the right move for you or not at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because for me, it's a great time because it is a great downtime. I do have the Proto Tide or the Proto Apollo. Sorry, I have the whole fleet blank and all that. I just don't have a purpose currently. So I have that, and it's gonna go up on the shelf. And for me, it gives me a chance to go back through and some of those old tier 7 hulls. They're all tier 7, but they're older, and they're maybe try some things. I know what deflection numbers are required to currently hit bases, and they're hard to achieve with some of the hulls. But the free space, the free shipyard, the regular shipyard gives me. I use that constantly for PvP.
Yeah.
That's just my favorite go-to.
Speaking of PvP, do we want to talk some about what we saw on the PvP refactor stream and what we liked and what we didn't like? Because I'm sure everybody on here has watched at least part of the stream that I did, correct?
For sure.
I was going to say, if not, you're fired. But I know Ross and I talked a lot about it while we were doing the stream and stuff. Let's go to Dunes. I'm interested in your perspective because I know back in the day you were a huge PvPer. So I'm interested to hear what you had to say about what you saw in the refactor.
Well, it's a lot of changes, first of all. But then again, it's if you don't think about what I looked at right before I signed into this version or whatever. Just forget all the battle pirates knowledge you have and just look at it stat based as a new clean slate. It does make a lot more sense. I think there's a lot of things that the ideas there. The numbers are not for sure. They need some tweaking on several things. But I think it will make it a little more simple, and if it's simpler for them to program, if that helps make it run better, I'm totally fine with that. So, but I did see a lot of things that obviously were broke, like the wardens and stuff. So I wished, some of the base hits I saw, people still had them in there. Now, that was one thing that they identified, and there were several other things that were identified, but I personally would have pulled that instantly and tried to do something else, because I know, as you said, once people found out that was going on, they started building them. Well, that's not solving anything. That's just blocking the test.
Yeah, that's stroking your own EP.
Yeah,
that's basically what that is.
That's what I was afraid of, and that's what I mentioned last week. You're there to to break stuff pretty much, and one thing got found, and maybe a couple others, but what was unseen because somebody wanted to keep that in their base.
Well, but here's and this is interesting because what we found as the test went on, because it was actually up for 24 hours. What we found as it went on was it wasn't necessarily just like that the mortars were doing too much damage or that the rockets were doing too much damage. What we found is that the ships in general were just doing too much damage. Yeah. And if you had whoever had range won. Yeah. Is basically what it came down to. And that's why, like, with the rockets, that's on the wardens, that's why they were doing so well, because you could have up to 121 range with rockets on wardens. And that was so you were able to outrange everything. So, and the ships pump out such a massive amount of damage, no matter what weapons are on them. Is that whoever fires first wins, because it only takes you like a volley at most 2 usually to kill a ship.
Yeah, I noticed, you know, a lot of stuff were going down pretty quick, you know. So
Yeah, because like everybody was like, well, it's rockets and mortars are broken, so I'm like, okay, so I switched over to missiles.
yeah,
But kept that extra range on them, so I could be the one to fire first, and it would end up with pretty much the exact same results. So that's when we're like, okay, so it's not really that any particular weapon type is dealing too much damage, it's that the ships themselves are dealing way too much damage.
yeah. See, when I saw that, I was like, you know, I wondered if anybody pulled, which I know you probably can't take defenders out. I'm not for sure, but because I haven't really built one, but it'd be nice to set them on the side and just go ship versus ship just to see what was actually, you know. I think that would have pinpointed it, you know, a little quicker, like you were saying.
Yeah.
How you figured it out. So
Now, no Phobos and Chad is saying about the extra range reducing damage. It does, but it only reduces it by like 9%. And when you're looking at like sirens and wardens that are doing like between like 2.5 million to 3.5 million damage, and even reducing that by 9% is dick all,
mm-hmm.
So RB, what did you think when you were watching?
Well, I'm pretty glad you've all said what you said, because I was thinking a lot of the same sorts of thoughts. So obviously none of this is set in stone, but it was really good to see. I was frustrated that, because I did watch the whole thing, I was kind of frustrated that, that people found what the trick was and then just stopped each other, because to me I almost turned it off because I was so annoyed watching that. And like Doom said, I really would have liked to have seen a bit of just straight ship, fleet versus fleet, see what's working, see what's not, and that sort of thing. So while it was really good to see, and they do have some tweaking, I'd like to see the turrets do some more damage. So it's a combination of the ships and the turrets, but they'll work out what the numbers are, and then we'll have our feedback and they'll adjust, and that sort of thing. So it was good to see. I probably would have liked to have seen a bit more, because I didn't know that it went on for 24 hours until afterwards, but it is what it is. And I'm just appreciative that it was allowed to be streamed in the first place, and that we could get an idea of what's going on. So while there were some frustrations for me, it was valuable.
Yeah, I mean, and I know I said it many times on the stream. Nothing we saw was set in stone or final, so it's really hard to go by off of what we saw. But some of the basic things that they did that I did like: over damage, gone; pass through, gone. It's back to once you overcome deflection, any damage that you do is actually being done straightforward, but you do have to overcome that deflection value, and that's why all the deflection values are not in the millions anymore. Like I think the highest ones that I saw came stock on anything was like just a little bit over 100,000. To me that is probably still a little bit high, my personal opinion. But we're not in the millions anymore, so that's a great thing,
Hooray!
We're getting away from the Pokemon era of battle pirates, where it was all about the huge, ridiculous numbers.
Yeah. I guess we've also got a lot of relearning to do, so it is going to take a while once it all, is done and everything. There's a lot that's going to change, base design, ship design, so it's going to take a while for the dust to settle. So, but it's good.
Yeah, I getting rid of all that stuff and changing some of those base mechanics, though, and I think Travis was hitting on this earlier, is going to make it so much easier for your battle pirates layman to understand. The person who doesn't have the degree in battle pirates math and know how exactly everything works. It's going to be way easier for that guy to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
So, anything else from anybody got anything else they want to talk about? Anything we
disappointed. I was disappointed in the mechanics design that they're removing the support specials and that. So it went beyond the the game error problems for me. I by design I don't like it. So even if it works as intended, I don't like it. For me, I'd prefer just to be left alone. And in all honesty, I think we're actually we're closer balanced right now in game than well we are for sure than that test server was. So until I see anything that's closer to half a damage fleet from the turrets in a base with no guard, it's not a step forward. It's just not. It's removing a zero so they can have another start point, in my opinion.
I don't know. Like, I disagree a little bit. Like I said, I think getting rid of all the over damage and pass through and stuff is a great thing. And do you not agree with that?
I do agree because I don't think but yeah, I'm more talking about the supports that we're learned to to build our design our base by to make it different. The four supports, the five with the OP, that type of thing. I think we're going to just totally see limit. In fact, I don't know why I wouldn't build a square and delete my turrets at this point. It's just what I've seen right now. It'd be more benefit. It'd be if I at any point in the game where it would be more beneficial financially for the player to delete what the items that they have offered in game for defense. That doesn't make, and then in game
but
right
we also know we also know though that they were very clear that turret damage is something that they're going to be taking a look at. They were very clear about
that. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm just saying but my opinion can't change until I see that because it's just not that way. You know what I mean? It's not that way in game right now. It's not the way in a test server. So that's the point I want to see. And so I'm thrilled to see that. And then I would look forward to it. But so hopefully we see that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are really like, unhappy about it right now because they can't wrap their head around that what we saw is not the end result. That was just the first stage of testing. We're probably going to see like 4 or 5 more stages of testing before we actually get to a point that it's like, okay, we're now ready to go live at this point. And I think that's just something that's very difficult for a lot of people to wrap their head around, and that's why they're all up in arms already. It's like just that was step number 1, guys. Just chill a little bit,
Yeah.
No, I agree, and that's why I'm not like a total. I'm quitting the game. I'm scratch. No, heck no. I'm okay, but my opinion's just not going to change until I see results.
All right. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about?
Well, with that testing, it seems like maybe they were trying to actually test the attacking fleets versus defenders. Say if the turrets were doing 50% damage to a fleet, and then the rest was coming from the defenders, it'd kind of be hard to determine at which point through the base was it more the base doing the damage or the defending hull, where the patrol fleets are kind of spread out. So you either going to come into a couple at a time, and then you're going to take some more damage as you go through the channel, and then get another one. Hopefully they were just turning the turret damage down just so they could see where conquerors versus defenders stood in a broken format, where the channel is breaking up the fleet in different configurations. But I think once they figure that out, the base will be easier to fix, because I know they reduced the fire support way down. What is it, one, uh, just capped to one with like something like 20% or something really low or something. Is that what it is? So yeah,
Yeah, it's actually it's yeah, you can only be affected by one, and now I think the reload and damage was 15%. I think is currently what it is in the game now, and now it's going down to 10.
yeah, with four turrets. So I mean, that was option one. I mean, the next one may be six turrets, and then they may realize they have to go back up to eight, or they need to just keep it four and just tweak it, instead of 15 up to 35, or it's. I think once they get the defenders versus attackers leveled out first, then the base is the easiest part to fix.
Now, see, I probably would have thought the exact opposite. I probably would have done like the first test server if it had been me. Is like, okay, you can attack bases, but you can't have guards in your bases. And then I want to see like after, okay, so your fleet has gone through. Yes, I'm sure it will have flattened this base, but I want to see how much damage the base itself without a guard does to that attacking fleet. And then at that point, that would tell me how much damage that the fleet should do to the attacker.
Yeah, it could work that way as well, for sure. I mean,
because like I'm very old school, just like you for sure I know are, and Ross probably too. Like I remember when you could defend your base and not have any guard in your base.
Yeah.
Well, it was at least defendable against more than half the attackers. Yes, it wasn't beatable by every hull out there. Correct. You know what I mean?
And it's funny because there's a lot of players that we probably have in the game currently that don't realize that our bases did not always have the ability to have guards in them.
Yeah.
Right.
You had to make the player inch up. Say you put your victory mortars, on your back wall. You'd have your sentinels in there to keep pounding them away the whole time. But what you're really wanting is to overload those victory mortars, so they had to inch up into your Howie, and once that was done, then it was over.
Yeah, but it's like what we saw with the lack of damage that the turrets were currently doing was you could just sit in that channel all freaking day and not have to worry about ever inching up because you weren't taking any damage sitting there all day long. Now there were a few turrets that were an exception to that rule. Like I did see people having success with UAV turrets. Seemed to be working fairly well on the test server. I did get to see at towards the end there was a little bit of stuff going on with some of the executioner missiles, but not like near to the level that where you really felt like, oh, I really got to get moving,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they got coming. Man, yeah. I know Cuttlefish is saying he doesn't think the refactor is coming later than the 19th or 20th this month. Otherwise, I'll have to wait another month right after Bounty. I don't think that they're like, oh my God, we got to get this refactor done before this upcoming Bounty, because I think they're more worried about getting it right than they are, oh my God, we have to get it done in time for Bounty.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger thing than just one event, and Bounty's going to change after this anyway. So, because it's going to be affected by the refactor. So it could even be next year. It's hard to say, and I guess we're coming into Christmas break and holidays and all that sort of thing, and I'm sure they probably deserve a bit of time off after the consolidation.
No doubt.
But I mean, and while I want to see him take their time and I want to see him get it right, though, by the same token, I don't want to see him lollygag around about it either.
Oh, of course.
It's like, okay, so we had this test server this past Monday. I would like to see a test server next Monday with all the updates and the changes that you've done based on everybody's feedback. I don't want to see, okay, well, a month from now, we're going to give you no, that's not going to cut it. You need to do one like every single week until you get it right, and then you can crank it out.
Do you think that's too fast to act on their feedback, though? It's just a question.
I personally don't. Travis could probably speak to that better than I could. How much time it takes to go through and adjust those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, it'll take a little bit of time, but you could pick it apart in sections. Pick one damage type or whatever, one set of turrets with its fire support, and then play with it versus every single hull. That's what I would do. Just changing the numbers just to see what felt right. That's when I made my games for class or for team production and some side projects and stuff. It was all about feeling, and if it played right and felt right, then I was comfortable with sending it off. But I know they're in a whole different thing of trying to make money off of it. But it can be tweaked, in sections fairly easy. But pulling it all together is the real trick. So.
I know Cuttlefish is saying they've been working on this refactor for 3 months or so, right? Well, that's an interesting conundrum in itself, because we don't know how much time they've actually been working on it, as opposed to how much time they've been having meetings about what they needed to do to work on it. So for out of that 3 months that they've been working on it, it's very possible that only 3 weeks of that was spent actually doing the work on it, and the other 2 months and week were spent on having meetings about what work they needed to do on it. So we don't really know how much time they've actually spent truly working on it.
And I'd still go back to the consolidation, saying that would have taken up a hell of a lot of time and resources. So you can imagine that, there was either not a lot done on the refactor, because that was the biggest, thing on. So yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It'll be when it's ready, I guess.
All right, so does anybody else have anything they want to talk about other than PvP refactor stream? Because we're at 8:22, and we should probably be wrapping it up soon. But if anybody had anything,
I'm good.
Ross, you good?
No, I'm pretty good. Just moving forward in the game, and I was happy to see not a new content. I was overall, honestly, in the week, I'm pleased with the consolidation. So it's a 2 thumbs up week in BP for me. It really is. So I don't want to be negative on the end of this. I think that really hats off to the game team on this one. It went over well, in my opinion. So I'm happy.
Yep, me too. I'm extremely happy. I'm amazed at how well such a big undertaking went over with very little problems. We're used to we're used to in the past a lot of times where we could have a little teeny tiny update and 5 billion things could go wrong. So we were just like, we were like, oh my God, this is a huge update. Oh my gosh, what are we going to log into? And I think everybody has been shocked actually about how well it went.
Yeah, I know when I logged back in, I was just cringing, and I'm like, what's going to happen? And I looked around and I went, oh, not a lot, really. That's cool.
Yeah. If not being able to hit the center of my FM targets for 3 or 4 targets on the first day was the price to pay for this, I'm more than glad to pay that price.
Yeah, and a little bit of ship stacking problems, but yeah, I mean it's just really gone very, very smoothly for the main part of the community that I've seen. So looking around the map, everything's scrolling fine. I am curious to see how much improvement there is in lag, because I haven't really noticed one way or the other at the moment. So I'm looking forward to see what happens there. But yeah,
Bounty will be interesting. That'll tell us.
Yeah, it sure will.
If they have to pull the walls out of the targets, we know stuff didn't work out that well. But, at this point, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they can amaze us in positive ways as well as the negative ways that we usually. So.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we're gonna call it there. Thanks for coming out and watching us, guys. Thanks for being active over in the chat. That always gives us some extra stuff to talk about and your questions to address. And give us a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe, all that fun stuff. Send your friends to the page. And we will talk to you Saturday, where we have our no quarter, and we will talk about the XP weekend, probably some more about the PvP refactor coming up, and whatever other miscellaneous things that we happen to think about. So, cool. All right, we'll talk to you guys Saturday. Bye.
See ya.
Have a good one.